Good morning, my dear students. So, I welcome you all for today's computer class. And today we shall continue with the same chapter. And here in this class, I'm going to explain a new topic that is about methods with parameters. So, my dear students, till now we have learned about different types of methods which can be included there in a Java programming. So, along with the method, so we can include the parameters as well. Alright, so in today's class, we'll be learning about what sort of parameters can be included there in a programming or there inside a class, and what are the different ways of methods that we can use there inside a Java programming. We'll be learning about those things in today's class. So let us start with the parameter passing. So my dear students, parameter passing is method of passing information or data from the calling method to the called method. So here, my dear students, there in the programming portion for this particular chapter, whenever we are dealing with the programming portion, so there we can find two different types of methods. One is called as method definition and another one is called as the call method or the calling method. So the values will be passed from one method to another method, and after which the last output will be displayed there in the screen. All right. So here, parameter passing is one of the method of passing the data or information from the calling method, one of the form of method to the called method. And you have to remember one more thing here whenever we are dealing with the parameters, that is parameters are also called as arguments. So don't get confused with the arguments and parameters. So both these are same. All right, so parameters and arguments are same there in the programming, so kindly don't get confused with these two different words. Okay, parameters and arguments are not two things, but these are the same thing. All right, these are the data or the values that we include along with the methods. Now let us move to the another portion, so that is types of arguments to methods. So what sort of arguments, what kind of arguments can be included there along with the methods? So let us know about this thing. The two types of arguments that can be passed are, the first one is primitive data types, which we have already learned in chapter number 2. Also, the primitive data types provided by Java are char, byte, short, long, float, double, and boolean. This is one form of argument that we can pass there in the programming. Okay, and second is a reference data type. So two different types of data types can be passed there in the method portion there inside a class or inside a programming, and these are primitive data types and reference data type. So reference data types are also called as non-primitive data types, so remember that one, or sometimes it is also called with another name, which is composite data type. Now, types of method calls. So as I told you there in the programming from this chapter, whenever we are dealing with the programming for the chapter, so there in the programming we'll be finding two different types of method. One is called as method definition and another one is called as method call, or we can call as a function call. Remember, another name for method is function. So there are two ways in which methods can be called. The first one is called as call by value. When arguments are of primitive data type, that time call by value method will be used. And second is call by reference. So when arguments are of reference data type, that time we can use the second form, that is called as call by reference. So these are the two ways of using the method whenever we want to call the method there in the Java programming. So at that particular situation we can use the two different forms. So if we use call by value form, that time we have to use or when arguments like primitive data types will be used, that time this form will be used. And when we use the non-primitive data types or reference data type, at that time the second form will be used, which is called as call by reference. Now, along with this one, what are the things that you have to remember? Suppose take an example. I have selected the first form, that is call by value. So the parameters of primitive data type can be any of the following. That means here if I select the the first form, that is call by value, so call by value will help to include the argument which are of primitive data type. So if we are including the primitive data type arguments there in the programming, what are the things that we have to know? What are the things that we can include for this primitive data type? Let us know these things. So the first one is a primitive data type or constant of any type. So when we are including the primitive form argument, so it can be a constant of any type. Second is a variable of any type and a valid mathematical expression. So these are the different forms of arguments from this primitive data type which can be included there in the programming. So remember, we can include the constant of any type, variable of any type, and valid mathematical expression also can be included there in the programming. Now whenever we are dealing with the primitive form, that is a call by value form, so what is the format that you have to follow? Let us learn this one, and I'll try to explain with the help of the example also, right? So first let us know about the format. So format is called as syntax. So here method definition. So as I told you, there will be two different types of methods included there in the programming. The first is method definition, and this is the format that you have to follow. So first thing what you have to write is modifier type, method name, and type variable 1, type variable 2. So here inside this bracket variables will be defined. Whereas for method call, another method portion for the programming, there in order to use method call, in previous class also I had told you about this one. I had explained about this portion. So method call, you have to create an object, you have to allocate an object there in the programming, then only you can call the above mentioned method. So obj.method name, so this is how you have to follow the method. All right, obj.method name value 1 value 2, this is how you have to write the format for the method call. Now the same format, now if I want to explain with the example, now for this one I have written the example out here. Like here modifier type is public, okay, and method name is add num. So public void I have written out here, and name of the method or function is add num, and inside the parameter list I have mentioned the parameter which are of integer type, int a comma int b. So this is considered as what? This is considered as method definition, which I have written out by using the single line comment /. Likewise for method call, I have mentioned the example for this one also. So as I told you here in this format, we have to write obj object name dot method name. So obj dot method name is add num, and value 1 value 2 I have mentioned out here in the similar way, that is 10 comma 20. So that portion, the second portion is called as method call with constant, that means fixed values. So I have mentioned this particular description with the help of the single line comment. Now here method calls with variables and expressions are also valid. So suppose for example, take an example, we are using the first form of method call, that is call by value. So whenever we are using the call by value method, we can include the primitive data types as an argument, and whenever we are using the parameter of primitive data type, it can be constant, which is explained out here in this particular portion for constant. Likewise, we can include the variable of any type and valid mathematical expressions as well. So for that I have mentioned the example out here, like int x equals to 5, y equals to 15. X is storing value 5 and y similarly storing value 15. obj dot add num x comma y. X comma y means variable, so value has not been mentioned, only the variable has been mentioned out here. So this is how we can use the variable there in the calling by value portion. So method call with variables, this is how we can use the variable there in the method call portion. So I have mentioned with the help of single line comment one more time. And the last one, we can also include the mathematical expression in this manner. So obj dot function name or the method name followed by 2 into 10 comma 5 plus 7 into 2 inside the bracket. So this is the form of mathematical expression which is or which can be included there in the primitive form, okay, or there in the call by value form. So method call with expression. So this is how we can include the three different types of parameters. It should be primitive data type, but we can include all the three different forms there in the call by value portion. So now let us move to the another portion which is very much important from this particular topic, which is called as actual and formal parameters. So my dear students, there in the programming, Java programming, whenever we are dealing with the Java programming, so we mostly deal with the variables, okay, and the different types of parameters with the help of which we can do different sort of calculations or computation, and then only the result will be displayed as an output there in the screen. So now there in the programming we can find different forms of parameters. So the two different forms of parameters that we are going to learn here in today's class are about actual and formal parameters. So what is actual parameter and what is formal parameter? Let us know from this particular portion. So actual parameters are the parameters that appears in the method call. That means two different method portion will be present there in the programming. So actual parameters are the parameters that appears in the method call from the above example. So above example means the example that I have mentioned out here for this particular portion. Okay, for explaining this portion I have mentioned some examples. So taking the help of the same example, so from the above example, the constants, that is 10, 20, variables x, y, and expressions, that is 2 into 10 and 5 plus 7 into 2 are all actual parameters. So I'll be explaining this portion with the help of the programming part also. All right. Now, whatever parameters are present there inside the method call portion, those parameters or those arguments are considered as actual parameters. Likewise, formal parameters are the parameters that appears in the method definition. So when parameters are present in another method portion, so that kind of parameter is considered as formal parameters. So from the above example, a and B are the formal parameters. They store the value passed from actual parameters. So like here, public void add num int A int B. So A and B, these are the formal parameters. Whereas this is the method call portion, this is the method definition portion. So whatever parameter is given inside method definition portion, those are considered as formal parameter, and whatever parameter including the variables and the mathematical expression, whatever will be given here in this method call portion, those arguments or parameters are considered as the actual parameters. So remember this one. Now the same thing I'm going to explain with the help of the programming portion, which I had already given, okay, to you all to copy there in your computer application copy. Now here I'll be explaining about the formal parameter and actual parameter, right? So program with a function that accepts two parameters, computes and displays their sum. So here this programming has been written to accept, to enter the two parameters, two arguments, and it also helps in doing the computation work, calculation work, and helps in displaying their sum. So here for this particular programming portion, the class name is given as funcparam. Okay, funcparam is the name of the class. So inside this one, inside the class only, the method, the first method has been written, public void add num. This is the method definition. All right, so public void add num int x comma int y. This is considered as formal parameter. So function taking two parameter. Description has been mentioned with the help of a comment, single line comment. Now inside this one, the block, inside the block of this particular method, int z, local variable, z equals to x plus y, system.out.println the values of x and y are plus x plus y system.out.println. So two statement has been mentioned out here inside this particular method definition. Now here this particular first method definition is ending out here with the help of this curly braces. Now another portion is starting here, the second portion, which is the method call portion. All right, so public static void main string args int a equals to 55, b equals to 75. So here a is storing a value and b also is storing a value, that is 55 and 75 respectively. Now these are considered as local variables of main function. So this is considered as main function, and these are the this particular portion is called as the method definition. All right, now system.out.println in main program. So statement, different statements you can find out here. Now what I want to show you from this particular portion is, now there are some variables that are mentioned in this part also, like a comma b 10 comma 100, a into 10 comma b minus 2. So as I told you, whenever we are selecting the first form, that is call by value form, so there in the call by value form, those call by value form will be including the parameters or the arguments which are of primitive type, and there also we can include the constant variables and mathematical expressions. Okay, so here if you see, this is a variable a comma b, likewise 10 comma 100 constant, and a into 10 b minus 2, these are the mathematical expressions. So three forms of arguments has been mentioned in this second method, which is called as the method call portion or the main method, which is considered as the actual arguments. So whatever argument is defined inside this portion is considered as actual argument, and whatever argument is mentioned inside this particular definition, method definition, is considered as formal parameter. So this is how we have to deal with the two different forms of parameters. Now what sort of question may come during the exam time from this particular part is, so differentiate between actual parameter and formal parameters. Okay, this kind of question may come from this particular portion, and sometimes there in the first part of the question, what kind of question may come is some programming portion will be given, and from there you have to identify which one is called as formal parameter and which one is called as actual parameters. So apart from that, the portion that we have completed recently, so from here also, like what are the two ways of method call, or what are the two ways of calling the method. So if this question comes, then you can write call by value and call by reference, and what sort of arguments can be included there in the call by value or call by reference portion. Those kind of question may come there during the exam time or during the board exam time. So for that you have to remember all these things properly. All right, so today I am ending with the last topic for this particular important portion, which is actual and formal parameter. The definitions are given out here. Kindly go through that definition properly, and what kind of values can be included there in the call by value we have learned. I have taught this thing in today's class. Kindly go through that properly, and the same explanation whatever I did from the programming portion in this today's class, the same thing is written out here, and I'll be sending this to you all, and kindly copy this and try to understand the thing properly. So till next class, stay safe and dedicate more time in studies. Thank you and have a great day.